यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यामुनतीरावनचारे यामुनतीरावनचारे जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारे जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारे जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे जय राधा रास बिहारी राधा रास बिहारी राधे जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय गुरुदेव श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। Hare Krishna. Welcome dear devotees to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam talk. We are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, chapter 82, verse number 46. Himgiri Prabhu, 45, 46, 46. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naramschaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripam Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 82, Verse 46. Evam yetani bhutani bhuteshvatmatmana tatah ubhayam may yathapare pashyata bhatamakshare. Synonyms. Evam, in this manner. He, indeed. Etani, these. Bhutani, material entities. Bhuteshu, within the elements of creation. Atma, the self. Atmana, in its own true identity. Tataha, pervasive. Ubhayam, both. Mai, within me. Atha, that is to say. Pare, within the supreme truth. Pashyata, you should see. Abhatam, manifested. Akshare, within the imperishable. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. In this way, all created things reside within the basic elements of creation, while the spirit souls pervade the creation, remaining in their own true identity. You should see both of these, the material creation and the self, as manifest within me, the imperishable supreme truth. Purport. One should properly understand the relationships among the material objects of this world, the elements comprising their basic substance, the individual spirit souls, and the one supreme soul. The various objects of material enjoyment, such as pots, rivers, and mountains, are manufactured from the basic material elements, earth, water, fire, and so on. These elements pervade material things as their cause, while the spirit souls pervade them in their special role as their enjoyer, Swatmana. And ultimately, the material elements, their products, and the living entities are all manifested within and pervaded by the imperishable, perfectly complete Supreme Soul, Krishna. A Jnani with realization of these facts should feel no separation from the Lord in any situation. But the gopis of Vraja are much more elevated in their Krishna consciousness than ordinary jnanis. Because of their intense love for Krishna in his most human-like, all-attractive aspect as a young cowherd boy, Krishna's internal potency, Yogamaya, covered their knowledge of his majestic aspects, such as his all-pervasiveness. Thus, the gopis were able to relish the intense ecstasy caused by their love in separation from him. Only in jest is Sri Krishna ascribing to them a lack of spiritual discrimination. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, in this particular chapter, which is chapter 82 of the 10th canto, there is description of the meeting of the Vrajavasis and Shri Krishna after decades of separation. And this meeting took place in Kurukshetra. It is described by Srila Sridhar Swami in the beginning of this chapter, because for every chapter Srila Sridhar Swami gives an introductory verse, and for this chapter too Srila Sridhar Swami has given an introductory verse. Srila Sridhar Swami says, Dvashiti tama agatya kurukshetram ravigrahe vrishnin drishtva muda bhupas chakru Krishna kathamitha. Dvashiti tama, in this 82nd chapter, agatya kurukshetram ravigrahe. In this 82nd chapter, everybody, all the kings and great personalities from Bharatvarsha, they assembled together during the solar eclipse at Kurukshetra. And Vrishnin Drishtva Muda Bhupas, all the kings, they became very happy on seeing the Vrishnis. Chakru Krishna Katha Mitha, and they all discussed about Shri Krishna with each other. So in the beginning of the chapter it is described how there was a solar eclipse, and this solar eclipse was a perfect occasion for everybody to get together at the Tirtha, the holy place named Syamanta Panchak. Syamanta Panchak are 5 lakes in Kurukshetra created by Bhagavan Parshuram by the blood of the Kshatriyas whom he killed during his pastimes. So he created 5 lakes of blood of the Kshatriyas. And then, although as Bhagavan he is untouched by laws of karma, still because nobody should imitate him, therefore he did some atonement there by performing yagyas. Although Bhagavan Parshuram doesn't need to perform atonement, so he performed atonement there. In the 5th verse of this chapter it is said, everybody from Bharatvarsha, Bharati Praja, assembled here. So even at that time the name of this particular tract of land was Bharatvarsha, and the individuals who used to stay here were known as Bharatiya, or members of residents of Bharatvarsha. And then all the kings arrived, so many great personalities, Akrura, Vasudev, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhan, all the Pandavas, everybody they arrived, and Mother Kunti also arrived, Shri Vasudev also arrived, and Mother Kunti then spoke to Vasudev that so many difficulties came upon us, but I think we were unfortunate that we could not get any support from you, Vasudev. Because Vasudev, you are Kshatriya, and Kunti, I am your sister. So I could not get any support from you in difficult times. And then Vasudev replied, well, whatever happens, happens due to the arrangement of providence. We ourselves were troubled by Kamsa so much that we could not stay in one place. Just recently we have found some stability after Kamsa was killed. And then even after Kamsa was killed, because Kamsa was the son-in-law of Jarasandha, then Jarasandha started attacking Mathura once every year. And then after Jarasandha attacked for a total of 18 times, once every year. So 18 years, there was always the fear of Jarasandha attacking Mathura. And after 18 years, Sri Krishna shifted everybody to Dwaraka. And now recently we have found some peace and tranquility in our lives, because finally Jarasandha's attacks on Mathura are over. All of us have shifted to Dwaraka. So in this way, Vasudeva consoled Kunti Devi, and then Bhagavan Krishna and Balram met all the Vrajavasis who had also come on the pretext of the solar eclipse at that particular point of time. And when they saw Sri Nanda and Mother Yashoda, Krishna and Balram started crying, and they wanted to say something, but their throats were choked, so Krishna and Balram could not say anything at that particular point of time. This is what is called Nar Leela. Nar Leela means Bhagavan is behaving, acting exactly like a human being. As Bhagavan Narayan, as the Almighty Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is known as Animisha. Animisha means he doesn't blink his eyes. That is Bhagavan Narayan. And as Sri Krishna, not only does he blink his eyes, but he also rubs his eyes and he cries from time to time, and this is one example of that. So there is difference between Bhagavan Narayan and Bhagavan Krishna. Bhagavan Narayan doesn't even blink his eyes. But Sri Krishna behaves exactly like a human being. And that is what was shown here. And then, dear devotees, there was the most special group of individuals whom Sri Krishna wanted to meet but was also a little scared to meet. And these were the gopis of Sri Vrindavan. And these gopis had assembled there in Kurukshetra, and then they got a chance to meet with Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, initially the meeting was with all the Vrajavasis. So Bhagavan could not find an opportunity to speak privately to them. Later, Srila Jiva Goswami and even the Bhagavatam says in the 41st verse, Bhagavams tas tatha bhuta vivikta upasangataha ashlishyanamayam prishtva prahasan idam abravit. So Bhagavan tas tatha bhuta. Bhagavan then saw that the gopis were not able to speak freely to him in a place where all the Vrajavasis are there. Dear devotees, this meeting is after decades of separation. First and foremost, we have to understand decades had passed since Krishna had left Sri Vrindavan. Usually any sort of love in the material world will be destroyed if there is such a prolonged separation. But this love has constantly increased after that separation. This is what is known as prem. In his writing, Srila Rupa Goswami has said that Dvamsasya karane satyapi, even though there are thousands of reasons for the relationship breaking, prema means that even after those thousands of causes of relationship breaking, the relationship does not break. That is what is prema. That is how Srila Rupa Goswami describes prema in his literature. So even after decades of separation, the gopis' love for him has only increased. And Bhagavan has something very special for the gopis, and I'll explain what is the specialty that Bhagavan has towards the gopis. Dear devotees, Bhagavan did not get married in Vrindavan. There was not a single marriage that took place of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan. The first marriage that took place was in Mathura. In Mathura also he got married, and after Mathura in Dwaraka also he got married. Especially when he was in Dwaraka, he got married to many queens, 16,000 of them together at once. So many of us might be knowing these 16,000 queens were previously imprisoned by one particular asur. Does anybody know what is the name? Bhaumasur or Narakasur, both names. Actually, these were girls from various parts of Bharatvarsha, and he had kidnapped them and kept them captive. And then Bhagavan killed Bhaumasur, also known as Narakasur, and then these girls were free. But then there was a big problem, because Kshatriya girls nobody will accept, especially after they have been kidnapped. So they said, we go back to our kingdom, nobody will accept our hands in marriage. So Sri Krishna, you have to give a solution. So there is no other solution. There is only one solution, that Bhagavan has to become Udarapani. You know what is Udarapani? Udarapani means liberal in giving his hand. That is what is Bhagavan's name, Udarapani. So Bhagavan became Udarapani, very liberally gave his hand in the hands of these girls and said, this is my proposal. If you wish to accept, and then please, please do Pani Grahan. Please put your hand on my hand, and that is Pani Grahan. Our marriage will be sanctified. So 16,000 got married, and there is a description of it. There was simultaneously 16,000 marriages that took place in Dwaraka. So much so that Narad Muni was baffled on seeing 16,000 Krishnas simultaneously marrying 16,000 princesses. Dear devotees, these 16,000 princesses, it is possible that many of them had a love interest in their life before meeting Krishna. But due to circumstances, they were kidnapped by Bhaumasur, and they could not attain the love of their lives. But they got married to Sri Krishna. But amongst all these queens, there was one queen, besides these 16,000, there was one queen who was very special, because Krishna was the first love of her life. So does anybody know who that particular queen was? Rukmini. For Rukmini, Krishna was the first love of her life, and the first love is usually very special. You never forget a person whom you love for the first time in your life, and Sri Rukmini had her first love of life as Sri Krishna. And she attained Sri Krishna's association, and she was the happiest and one of the most favorite queens, the most favorite queens of Sri Krishna. For Rukmini Devi, Krishna is the first love of her life. But for Krishna, who is the first love of his life? Yes. So therein lies the problem. Because that relationship could not attain fructification in Vrindavan. So our Bhagavan always carries the splinter in his heart that this relationship could not succeed. And on top of that, there is separation for decades, more than 4 decades of separation. And the Vrajavasis are seen to be intensely suffering, and Bhagavan Sri Krishna is also seen to be intensely suffering. Sri Rupa Goswami writes in Uddhav Sandesh that Bhagavan used to cry when he was alone. And and he used to cry very loudly. One time Uddhav saw that our Bhagavan is crying and he is Maharaj of Mathura. So it does not justify that a big king, Maharaj of Mathura, is crying privately and is unable to reveal what is in his heart to others. So that particular point of time, Sri Uddhav approached him privately and asked him what is the problem. So then Sri Uddhav came to know that our Bhagavan is suffering from separation. So dear devotees, the Vrajavasis are crying. Is it happiness or suffering? Happiness doesn't look like happiness. Looks like tremendous suffering. Acha, Pandavas, Kunti Devi, they went through a lot of difficulties. Is that happiness or suffering? Bolo, bolo, clearly. Suffering. So dear devotees, we came to the path of Krishna Bhakti for becoming happy or unhappy? For becoming happy. Srila Jiva Goswami, in the beginning of Priti Sandarbha, he says, Purusha prayojanam tavat sukha prapti dukkha nivrittischa. That the aim of all humans and the aim of human form of life is to attain happiness and to get rid of suffering. But when we hear all this suffering of all the devotees who are so close to Sri Krishna, do we really want to become a part of Krishna Lila in our next life? That question arises. So dear devotees, how many of you would like to suffer similarly, separation for decades in your next life, just like all the Pandavas and Kunti Devi and Vrajavasis suffered? Please raise your hands. There's some brave souls who are raising their hands, who are signing up for suffering. You are okay with suffering? Prabhu, your good name? Huh? Prabhuji, you are okay with suffering? There is no option. Wow. Yeah. All right. So, Prabhu says there is an option, Prabhu. You can enjoy in this world. So somebody brainwashed him that there is no enjoyment in this world. So he's saying there is no enjoyment. He's denying the obvious facts of the world. Of course, the brainwashing is coming from Krishna himself, because dukkhalayam ashashvatam. So, because Prabhu has been told that there is no happiness in this world, so there is suffering in this world. So Prabhu has signed up for suffering in the next world. Does that sound good, Prabhu? No. So Purusha Prayojanam, aim of human form of life is to attain happiness and to get rid of suffering. So why is it that so much suffering is seen in the lives of the associates of Sri Krishna? Now, let's try to unpack the mystery of all the suffering that all the associates of Sri Krishna have gone through. Because you see, Sri Krishna is not only going to execute pastimes in this one universe. After this universe, Bhagavan is going to go to another universe. And after that, he is going to go to another universe. So in every universe, he is going to have associates such as Pandavas and Vrajavasis. And all of them have to suffer through decades of separation. So this suffering has become a continuous process, because in every universe, the associates of Sri Krishna have to suffer so many difficulties. So why is it that Bhagavan is putting all of his associates into suffering? And if this is the Bhagavan, then we should put an arop, an allegation of cruelty upon such a Bhagavan. Such a Bhagavan must certainly be cruel, isn't it? So the answer to this, because in Western philosophy, It is said after looking at the suffering of the world that either God is not benevolent or God doesn't exist. Only two things are possible. Either God is not benevolent, He is not kind. Either we have a cruel God or either God doesn't exist. There cannot be a third possibility. So the answer to this is given by Srila Jiva Goswami and all the previous acharyas. So Srila Jiva Goswami says in Priti Sandarbha, Pandavadivat kvachit prakrita dukkha bhavat. This is in Anuched 121 of Priti Sandarbha. Pandavadivat kvachit prakrita dukkha bhavat tad viyogadva uthite bhakti rase sanchari lakshana bhakta dainyepi kadachit tat prasad darshana bhavascha. So Sri Jiva Goswami says, even in the case of Pandavas, there is absolutely no suffering at all. There is no material suffering involved for Pandavas. There is no material suffering involved for any associate of Bhagavan. Now, how do we understand this? Because the Pandavas appear to be suffering. Externally, they appear to be suffering. But Srila Jiva Goswami is saying that none of the devotees, none of the associates of Sri Krishna suffered. So the answer to this is given in Srimad Bhagavatam when Kunti Devi says to Bhagavan in the first canto, 8th chapter, verse 19, Nato Natya Dharo Yatha. Bhagavan, you are exactly like a person who is playing a role in a drama. This is Kunti Devi's statement. You are exactly like a person who is playing the role of an actor in a drama. Now, dear devotees, how many of us have watched drama? Please raise your hands. So, in my childhood, my father often used to take me to watch natak, drama. But there is a difference between natak, drama and movies. The difference between natya and chalachitra, movies, many of us might have noticed, in natak, the front row seats are most expensive and the back row seats are least expensive. And in a movie, the front row seats are least expensive, but the back row seats are most expensive. What is the reason? Because in natak, the closer you are to the live performance, the greater amount of relishment you can have. There is a principle in natak called as ras. And this principle of ras is very unique. Very unique. This principle of ras makes even suffering into the highest enjoyment. I'll give you an example. When somebody goes to view a drama, a natak of Ram Leela. In my childhood, I went often to see dramas of Ram Leela. In one of the dramas, so Sita Devi at the end of the drama, because there is so much difficulty in her life, so Bhumi Devi splits apart, the earth opens apart, and she says, you are my daughter, and it is not fit for you to stay in this human society any longer. So I will take you within myself. And dear devotees, Bhagavan Ram is watching and he cannot do anything. Love and Kush, both the sons are watching that their mother is now going to depart forever from their vision. And all the residents of Ayodhya are watching and they are feeling terrible because previously they put Sita Devi through a fire test when Sri Ram had conquered Lanka. And even then, after putting her through the fire test, some Ayodhya Vasis were still suspicious about her stay in Lanka for 1 year. And then Bhumi Devi said, it is not fit for you to stay here. And then she took Sita Devi within herself. And then Bhagavan Sri Ram and Love and Kush are all crying at the end of the drama. This is how the drama ended. Everybody was crying. This is what you call, in dramatical terms, a tragedy. So there are many tragedies, dramas which are portrayed as tragedies, and this was one of them. I remember I was crying at the end of the drama, and after my father brought me out, then I told my father that it was one of the best dramas I have ever seen. That's what I said. It's one of the best dramas I have ever seen. So the principle of ras is such that it turns suffering into greatest enjoyment. What is ras? Now let me explain briefly. On a stage, a particular actor plays out a particular role. That particular actor has a bhav, has a mood within their heart. And that actor is playing out that role on the stage. In the audience, the person who is watching becomes sahriday, like-minded to that actor. And then whatever emotions that actor is feeling, a generalized version of those emotions also enters within the heart of the person who is viewing. And then the person who is viewing starts crying or starts laughing. For example, in Ramayana, there is Bharat Milan. Bharat comes and, in the forest, and he meets Bhagwan Ram and requests, you please come back to the kingdom. Bhagwan Ram refuses. Finally, Bhagwan Ram gives his footwear, and Bharat carries it on his head. And when he is going back, everybody is crying because they will not see Bhagwan Ram for 14 years. So when they were crying, I saw one person next to me is also crying. Many years later, I thought, his brother was sitting right next to him. Why is he crying? So the reason why he is crying is because he has become sahriday, like-minded, one in heart with the actor who is playing the role of Bhagwan Ram and who is playing the role of Bharat. So because he has become sahriday with Bharat, therefore whatever emotions that actor is experiencing, those same emotions are experienced by this person. Sri Rupa Goswami and the previous acharyas call this phenomenon as sadharanikaran, generalization of emotions. A generalized version of the emotions that is experienced by the actor is also experienced by the like-minded audience. In the literature of rasa, it is described, Nanu tarhi karunadinam rasanam dukkha, in Sahitya Darpan, which is a very great literature of rasa and poetics. It is said entire Ramayana is Karun ras, entire Ramayana is tragedy. Primarily entire Ramayana is tragedy. In the beginning of Ramayana, Dashrath doesn't have sons, tragedy. Then Dashrath gets sons, and the sons are taken away by Vishwamitra, tragedy. Then the sons return back, and Bhagwan Ram is married, but on the day, when he returns back, he has to go to forest, tragedy. In forest also they should stay happily, but no, Sita Devi is captured, tragedy. Then Sita Devi has to be found, but Sugriv makes him wait for 4 months. Even after 4 months, Sugriv doesn't send out his army so easily, tragedy. Then for Sita Devi, there is 1 year of tragedy. And then Bhagwan Ram finally fights and wins over Ravan, and then Sita Devi is united with Bhagwan Ram. And after some time, there is again separation because the Ayodhya Vasis cast a doubt on her again. Tragedy. So entire Ramayana is full of one ras, which is Karun ras. Which ras is that, dear devotees? Karun ras. Tragedy. But the person who ras has such a nature that it turns tragedy into the highest joy. And for those of you who still don't understand, I'll give a more mundane example so that it becomes very easy to understand. Because this was Ram Leela, it's a very transcendental example. So I'll give a mundane example so that it becomes more easier to understand. So we are all staying here in Mumbai, and Mumbai is responsible for spoiling entire India. Because there is one industry here in Mumbai, we all know which industry? Bollywood. Right here in Juhu we are. So all the great kings of Bollywood, many of them stay nearby. So dear devotees, Bollywood churns out thousands of songs every year. And the love songs can be broadly categorized into two types: songs of union and songs of separation. And you can imagine which songs are appreciated more, songs of union or songs of separation. Please tell me. Separation. But separation is suffering, isn't it? Isn't separation supposed to be suffering? Of course it is supposed to be. But when separation is acted out on a stage, that same suffering turns into a great amount of joy. So therefore, dear devotees, there is immense value. Hare Krishna. SriSriRadhaRasbihari Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So there is immense value in that suffering. Because when it is acted out on stage, then it becomes the highest form of enjoyment. Therefore, all pastimes of Shri Krishna are also, is not that Bhagavan is actually suffering and the Vrajavasis are actually suffering. Bhagavan is playing, carrying out Leela. And Leela is nothing but Natya Anukaran. It is one form of acting out a role in a drama. And what is the purpose of acting out a role in a drama? The purpose of acting out role in a drama is to experience ras. Therefore, Sri Jiva Goswami points out that all that suffering which is experienced by the devotees is actually nothing but sanchari bhav. It is nourishment of their bhakti ras. Bhagavan will never put any of his associates into any sort of material suffering. And therefore, Sri Jiva Goswami points out, therefore Kunti Devi says, Vipadaha santu nah shashvad. May difficulties come again and again and again in our lives. Because nobody wants material miseries. But when miseries come in the form of nourishment of transcendental bhakti ras, those are not material miseries. In fact, they are sanchari bhav, they are transitory emotions which nourish bhakti ras. That is what it is. In English, there is a term catharsis, which means through suffering you experience enjoyment, and this same principle is also explained by Acharyas of Rasa. Sri Sanatana Goswami also gives the same explanation in his Brihad Bhagavatamritam. I am giving that explanation to all of you now, what he has given in Brihad Bhagavatamritam. Sri Sanatana Goswami says, usually if you take your hand and put your hand in burning fire, what will happen to your hand, Prabhu? Burn. And the color of the hand will change. It will become dark in color because you will have a burn mark. So dark color, and you will have a burning sensation. That's because of the fire. And then Sri Sanatana Goswami says, if you put the same hand on freezing ice, again the hand will become dark and you will have a burning sensation. That is what you call a frostbite. When it is too cold also, it is called frostbite. The hand becomes dark bluish color. So many people, when they experience frostbite, that is also burning sensation. And you put your hand in fire, that is also burning sensation. The effect is the same, but the cause is complete opposites, dear devotees. I hope you are able to understand. So Sri Sanatana Goswami uses this analogy to explain that although the external effects on the Pandavas and the devotees of Vrindavan appear to be the same as material suffering, but the underlying cause behind the suffering is complete opposite of material causes. So this analogy is given by Sri Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamritam to explain how the suffering of the Vrajavasis is not material suffering. Forget about suffering of the Vrajavasis. In the Rasa Shastra, in the literature of Rasa, it is said that even material suffering, when it is presented through dramas, The ras which is generated, the poets say Brahmananda Sahodara, it gives as much joy as the joy of getting merged into impersonal Brahman. So actually, even material separation, when experienced as ras, is above material nature. What then to speak of non-material separation between Bhagavan and the residents of Vraja? So, dear devotees, for this reason, those who perform dramas are willing to perform it again and again. I hope you are able to understand. Those who are playing roles of actors in a tragedy, do they perform it only once or do they perform it again and again? Again and again. But if it is suffering, why should they perform it again and again? Because actually, it is the opposite of suffering. And those who are viewers of the drama, they should also view the drama only how many times? Or not even once, because it is suffering. But a good tragedy is appreciated not only once, but it is appreciated again and again. What is the reason that people want to go again and again to watch the same play and experience that same suffering? Because actually for them it is not suffering. It is catharsis. It is releasing of pent-up emotions within the heart that causes a transcendental experience of ras. And that transcendental experience of ras, even in the material world, is compared to Brahmananda, the joy of merging in the impersonal Brahman. What then to speak about that which is transcendental to this material world? Therefore, Sri Jiva Goswami points out that there are many verses in the Bhagavatam. Yasyaham anugrinami harishe tad dhanam. If I am very pleased on somebody, I take away their wealth. Sri Jiva Goswami says that this verse is for somebody who is on that platform of experiencing bhakti ras. Sometimes, new devotees think Krishna will take everything away from me and then I'll suffer a lot. So this verse is for those who will experience transcendental bliss in the form of ras when Krishna gives them some suffering which is related to nourishing their bhakti ras. Then Sri Jiva Goswami says, Kunti Devi said, Vipadaha santu na shashvat, let miseries come again and again. In the 10th canto, Sri Jiva Goswami points out, in the 10th canto, Bhagavan has spoken the reason for going away for such a long duration from the gopis. What was the reason that Bhagavan went away? Bhagavan himself spoke. In the 47th chapter, it is mentioned, Yat tvaham bhavatinam vai dure varte priyo drisham manasah sannikarshartham mad anudhyana kamyaya. Bhagavan, through his messengers, he sent a message. Yat tvaham bhavatinam vai dure varte. I know I am situated far away from you, but I still don't come to meet you. Why don't you come to meet? Manasah sannikarshartham, so that your minds will be firmly thinking of me in separation. And this separation will be the highest enjoyment for all of you. Because when experienced as ras, separation is not suffering. Separation is the highest enjoyment. Mad anudhyana kamyaya. And then immediately in the next verse, it is said, Yatha dura chare preshthe mana avishya vartate strinam na chatatha chetah sannikrishteksh gochare. The absorption of mind that can happen in separation can never happen in union, dear devotees. There's a very nice verse in Padyavali about this. Sangama viraha vikalpe varamiha viraho na sangamastasya sange sotra tathaiva ekaiva tribhuvanam api tanmayam virahe. Between union and separation, Srimati Radharani says, I select separation. Because in union, I see Krishna only in one place. But in separation, my three worlds are filled with him. So this is the difference between union and separation, in the sense that separation is more relishable than union. And Sri Rupa Goswami also says, Na vina vipralambena sambhoga pushtim ashnute kashaite hi vastradav bhuyan rago vivardate. Without separation, union does not become tasteful. You first need to add separation in order to make union tasteful. Otherwise, without separation, there is no point of meeting. Constant separation has the nature of destroying a relationship. Constant union has the nature of destroying a relationship. Constant union has the nature of making things for granted so that people don't appreciate each other. For every day, Bhagavan Shri Krishna goes to the forest. It is called pravas, separation for the gopis, every day. And then he returns in the evening. And when he returns in the evening, they are all glancing on the pathway on which he will come. And then they glance at him through their eyes. And that is the highest happiness for all of them. And during the pastime of the Rasa Leela, for one entire night of Brahma, when they were together and the gopis got very happy that I am very special, Bhagavan immediately introduces separation. That separation is called Prema Vaichitya. Bhagavan is present right there, but he disappears from their company. So this separation has immense value. And it acts as a nourishing factor for union. And therefore separation and union are two banks of the same river of prema, of love. So dear devotees, I'll conclude with this one thing. Finally, when Bhagavan met the gopis at Kurukshetra, and Bhagavan was afraid of even looking at them in the eye, because after so many decades he had promised, I'll come back. And he did not come back. He lied on purpose. In the Padyavali, there is a verse Sri Rupa Goswami has compiled. This verse is by an anonymous author. And this verse is in the meter Manda Kranta as to what happened in Kurukshetra. So in Kurukshetra, when Bhagavan was alone with Srimati Radharani, Bhagavan fell at her feet and asked for forgiveness. And Srimati Radharani's reply is mentioned in the Padyavali. Kimpadante luthasi vimana swamino hi swatantra kanchit kalam kvachit abhirato tatra kaste paradha agaskarinyahamiha yaya jivitam twadviyoge bhartra prana sriyaiti nanu tvam mamai varuneya. When Sri Radha saw Bhagavan falling at her feet, then she said, Kim padante luthasi vimana. Vimana, are pagal. Vimana, are pagal. Why are you falling at my feet? Swamino hi swatantra. Don't you know big kings are independent? You are Bada Maharaj. Why should a Bada Maharaj fall at the feet of an unknown villager such as myself? Kanchit kalam kvachit abhiratas. For some time in your life, you might have fallen in love with us. Kings fall in love with so many girls. And then they forget such love also. Kaste aparadha. What is your fault in that? There is no fault of yours. Maharaj. Oh, Bada Maharaj. There is no fault of yours. Agaskarini ahamiha yaya jivite tvad viyoge. Actually, fault is mine. That I stayed alive for so many years even after you went away from my life. Actually, that fault is mine. Bhartri prana striya. It is said that the lover is the life of the ladies. And you were my first love. And you departed. So my life departed. So my life air should also have departed from my body. But my fault is that even after you left for so many years, my life hairs did not leave my body. Tvam mamai vanune. Actually, I should say sorry to you. You should not say sorry to me. So now what will Bhagavan say? I hope you are able to understand. Nothing remaining to say. So this awkward position Bhagavan was put into. And then the Vaishnava poet Chandidas, he describes what is in the heart of Srimati Radharani. He describes in his poetry that Sri Radha was thinking, I will go to the shore of the ocean and I will give up my life. But I will give up my life with one unfulfilled desire. Because I have heard that those who die with unfulfilled desires, their desire comes true in their next life. And with what desire will I die? Next life you should become Radha. Next life, you Krishna should become Radha. Sri Chandidas sings, Mariya haiba nandera nandana tomar karinu Radha. Next life, you become Radha. And then I will show you. Then I will appear in front of you. I will suddenly disappear. I will, make you fall down unconscious. Then you will know what it is to burn in love. Otherwise, you will never know. And did Sri Radha's desire come true, dear devotees? 100% it came true. Bhagavan will never keep any desire of his devotees unfulfilled. Bhagavan came, and the same suffering that the Vrajavasis experienced, Bhagavan experienced in his next incarnation. Because that is not suffering, dear devotees. That is the highest form of relishment in the form of ras. And the principle of ras is transcendental enjoyment even in the greatest suffering. So with that, I'll pause my speech, dear devotees. Yadatra skhalitam kinchit vidvamsaha purayantu tat. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit tat guroreva me nahi. Yadatra skhalitam kinchit. If there's anything mistaken with Vamsa, your learned devotees purayantu tat. Please correct it. But yadatra saushthavam kinchit. If there's anything nice, please remember, tat guroreva. It belongs to my Gurujanas. Me nahi. It doesn't belong to me. Thank you very much. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So, I thank Hemagiri Prabhu for kindly inviting me. Thank you, Prabhuji. How much time we have for Q&A, you decide. All right? Okay.
It's okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Very wonderful.
Thank you.
You gave a very new angle to love in separation. I have two questions. The first question was, Ravanasur was cursed by Ramba or somebody that if he touches any woman against her will, you will die. Is it something like that? That's why Sitaji was protected. Is there anything like that in the history of these ladies? Who are they protected? Or is there a possibility that they were contaminated?
Is there any possibility that they were contaminated? Sita Devi, she was touched by Ravan when he kidnapped her. So, Sri Jiva Goswami mentions in the Sandarbhas the incident from the Puranas, especially he points out Kurma Puran, where there is a mention of a chaya of Sita Devi, a shadow of Sita Devi, who was material basically, and that shadow was touched by Ravan. And then Sri Jiva Goswami also makes a similar mention that when the gopis were invited for the Rasa dance by Bhagavan Sri Krishna, a chaya, a shadow of the gopis stayed behind at their home. So the husbands all felt that they are sleeping right next to us. Whereas the gopis in their Chinmay Sharir, in their transcendental body, they united with Sri Krishna in that particular pastime. So that is the standard explanation given by the previous acharyas.
I'm asking about these 16,000 queens who are kidnapped by Bhaumasur.
Bhaumasur, yeah.
Did they have such protection or?
There is no mention as such because they were kidnapped in various parts of India. The main point being that since they were kidnapped, they cannot get married again. Because society at that particular point of time was such that once you are kidnapped, you cannot get married again. This also happened in the case of Bhishma Dev when he kidnapped Amba.
Amba, yeah.
When Bhishma Dev kidnapped Amba, because Amba already loved somebody. And when Bhishma Dev kidnapped her against her will, and when she was brought to Hastinapur, she said, I love somebody else.
Salva.
Shalva, yeah. So then Bhishma Dev said, all right, I'll take you back. He took him back to Shalva. Shalva said, I cannot accept you. Sorry. I cannot accept you. Because the entire Bharat, entire India will laugh on me. That you accepted a girl, you are a Kshatriya, you couldn't fight for your girl. You accepted somebody who was given as charity. I hope you are able to understand. Entire India will laugh on me. So then she was sent back and she said, then let Bhishma marry me. Bhishma said, I cannot marry. I have taken pratigya. And she went to the guru of Bhishma, Parshuram. Said, you ask him to marry. Parshuram said, I'll fight with you, Bhishma. Bhishma said, Gurorapyavaliptasya karya karya majanata. If Guru doesn't know what should be done and what should not be done, I don't accept such a Guru. So, in this way, that was the situation. The end result was that they were not accepted. Bhagavan became Udarpani. Of course, they are all transcendental bodied, but Sri Jiva Goswami explains that when they come in the material world, there is a certain partial touch of material nature to the bodies of all the associates.
Actually, Srila Prabhupada writes in first canto, I think 11th chapter, that actually Krishna accepted them even though they were kidnapped.
Yeah.
And then they were in somebody's house for so many years.
Right.
So Prabhupada said, when they chanted Hare Krishna and they surrendered to Krishna, all the contamination is gone.
Yeah.
And then he accepted them.
Yeah.
So,
when they chanted Hare Krishna, their contamination went away. That's all. That can happen even today.
so that is the glory of Sri Krishna's appearance.
Yeah.
Lord Ramchandra rejected his own wife, but Krishna accepted
it.
That is his glory. I have a problem when you say that Krishna's acting is all acting, because in 10th canto Rasa dance, first verse, Bhagavan Apita Ratri,
Sharadotfulla Mallika.
You know, so in that verse, purport Vishwanath Chakravarti says, so this Api means even though he is Bhagavan, he decided to enjoy with the gopis. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says, it is not that Krishna is fulfilling their desire, that they wanted to associate with Krishna, because seeing their wonderful qualities and beauty, Krishna himself wanted to enjoy. It's not that he is doing natak. And then it's not that Krishna is crying, it is a natak. Actually he is crying, he is afraid.
No. In Hindi, the term natak has taken a different connotation. Natak, the meaning of natak in Hindi has become pretense. The actual meaning of natak is the relishment of rasa through a performance. That is what it is not pretense. It is the relishment of rasa through acting in a certain way. So the modern meaning of natak has become pretense. Somebody is faking it. That is the meaning of natak that it has taken upon today. The traditional meaning of natya, there is a difference between natya. Natya means that he is acting in a certain way in order to invoke certain rasas and relish those rasas. Because in the Taittiriya Upanishad it is said, Raso vai saha rasam hi eva ayam labdhva anandi bhavati. Actually he is rasa. And the other living entities also become happy on relishing ras. So the whole point is to relish ras, even for the living entities and even for Bhagavan. But that ras becomes manifest for the living entities when Bhagavan engages in natya. If Bhagavan is self, he doesn't need natya for his enjoyment, because his enjoyment is present within him. He is Vishay. But those who are ashraya of rasa, those who are shelters of rasa, they need natya in order to bring out that rasa from the transcendental body of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So for the living entities, for the benefit of living entities, Bhagavan carries out this natya. For himself, he is self-satisfied. So Sri Jiva Goswami points this out in Priti Sandarbha. Bhakti Yoga Vidhanartham. The reason for Bhagavan appearing is so that Bhakti Ras can be bestowed upon the living entities. Because Bhagavan by yourself, you are constantly relishing it. But the living entities will only relish it when you act it out, as if a dramatic performance. So that is the reason for the entire Natya. Thank you.
There is a Vishnu Chakatakur says that culmination of Sringar Rasa happens when there is Sambhoga and then there is separation, then again Sambhoga. So without separation, the completeness of love doesn't take place.
Yeah.
That is why there is separation.
Yeah, first there should be separation. Sri Radha and Krishna should begin their pastimes on the note of separation. The first separation is called Purva Rag,
Purva, yeah.
because they have not yet seen each other. And Ratirya Sangamat Purvam Darshana Shravanadija. Purva Rag is when Bhagavan Sri Krishna and Sri Radha have not yet seen each other. They are growing up. For the first time they develop mutual attraction. But they are not able to speak freely to each other due to society pressure. And that is separation. That separation induces a lot of interest in each other's personality. And that it gives a lot of joy. So that is called Purva Rag. That is the first stage of separation. So love begins on the bank of separation and then it goes to union and again separation and again union. So Purva Rag, then union, then Man, then union, Prema Vaichitya, union, Pravas. All the stages of separation are there. That is the answer. Thank you.
So last comment is, Prabhupada says that why Devaki and Vasudeva and Pandavas have suffered, because Krishna wanted to show, even if you are a mother of Krishna, even if you are a Bhuva of Krishna, if you come into this material world, you must suffer.
Right. I'm sure there is a meaning to that, but from a tattva point of view, if the living entities don't want to suffer, they don't want to suffer. And from a tattva point of view, actually Devaki and Vasudeva also did not experience material suffering, but they are externally showing the symptoms of suffering. Because I'll point out a fact, Draupadi's 5 sons were killed by Ashwathama. The next day she forgave him. This doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah.
But it can happen in a drama, of course. It can happen. In a drama, it can happen. A mother whose 5 children have been killed, Ashwathama, he was brought in front of Draupadi. He said, now I'll offer his head to you. But Draupadi said, no, he is son of a Brahmana. We should let him go. I hope you are able to understand. This cannot happen in real life. It can only happen when the characters are playing a certain role. And the main aim is relishment of Bhakti Ras. And that is why all the Pandavas, from universe to universe, they are like a traveling drama party. I hope you are able to understand, with the lead player being our Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna is the lead player of the drama. And the Pandavas are supporting actors. And all of them play out these roles and they experience immense enjoyment. And that's how the whole thing is played out. Therefore, it is called Leela. That is why it is called Leela.
When Krishna, first time they saw, in Mahabharata, first time Krishna was introduced in Draupadi Swayamvar. At that time, Krishna recognizes Pandavas. Right. Even though Balramji did not. Yeah, right. Is there any episode that they met before?
At least in the Mahabharata, I have not seen.
Yeah, Mahabharata is not there.
No,
that is the first
seen.
time Krishna was introduced in Mahabharata.
Yeah. Because Krishna for the first 11 years was in Vrindavan.
But they keep saying, Krishna and Arjuna, they are Langoti Dost.
No, that must be a folk tale. But historically, Krishna was in Vrindavan for the first 11 years. Came out of Vrindavan for killing Kamsa, then was in Mathura. And then for Mathura, every year Jarasandha used to attack. Bhagavan had become king of Mathura. For 18 years, Bhagavan stayed there, and first marriages of Bhagavan happened in Mathura. His Upanayan Samskar also happened in Mathura. Bhagavan's Upanayan Samskar happened in Mathura. Upanayan happens when marriage is about to take place. So around that time, Bhagavan also got his sacred thread, and Bhagavan got married in Mathura, and then in Dwarka there was a flood of marriage. So
did they meet? Did they meet before, during those 18 years?
There is no evidence to that in that respect. All right. Hemagiri Prabhu, should we pause or somebody else is there? Narottam Prabhu, and then we'll come to Adokshaj Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, we can give it to you.
Earlier in the lecture you were mentioning, that the relation between the gopis and Krishna didn't bear any resolve. But if you see the pastimes when Brahma Vima Leela, all the lalas and lalis, they got married when Krishna expanded himself. So it happened there, right? Can you explain something?
Yeah, so during Brahma Vimohan Leela, Brahmaji stole all the cowherd boys, and some acharyas say that it is in that year that the marriages of gopis and Shri Krishna took place. There are two acharyas who say that. One is Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and the other is Sri Harishuri. Both of them say the same thing, that the marriages took place that year. So the vow that the gopis had asked from Katyayani Devi, that vow actually attained fulfillment, because in another form it was Krishna who was married to them. So from that angle it is true, but it is an angle given by the commentators. Historically what happened is, after 1 year the cowherd boys came back, and then after that the marriages took place. Because when the marriages take place, you usually get a sacred thread. In traditional India, you don't get married without a sacred thread. So first the sacred thread has to happen, then the marriage ceremony has to take place. So commentators have given a Rasik point of view, that in that year the marriages were fixed, of the gopis and of the gopas. Not the actual marriage, the marriages were fixed. So at least from one angle, their desire to get married to Krishna came true, and Katyayani Devi can say, see, I fulfilled your desire. But in reality, they have to go through that separation. Because unless they go through that separation, that highest enjoyment is not going to be there. Separation is for enjoyment. Please try to understand this thing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, last final 12 years of his life, he spent in Gambhira. And that was in complete separation. The only reason for that is because here separation is the highest form of enjoyment. Otherwise, Bhagwan will not put himself through, voluntarily put himself through suffering. And when we understand that, then we also become attracted to the culture of relishing separation. That it is very important to understand there is a culture of relishing separation. But it has to be cultivated. So that is the answer to the query. Okay, one last query by Adokshaj Krishna Prabhu, then we can pause. All right. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for wonderful class. So Prabhuji, I am trying to understand, and it's a little difficult for me to digest. Is there any way to understand this separation as enjoyment in material world? Like in material relationships, there is separation and then there is union. So then union is more
relishable.
But still nobody wants separation.
Yeah.
Even after, say, 50 years of my life with my father, I would not want to separate from him. Due to circumstances, if I get separated and then I unite with my father, it will be more relishable. But at no point of time, I think anybody wishes to separate from his beloved. Now, in the spiritual domain, this separation, and because everything is absolute, so is it like that perpetually there is separation, or how do we understand this?
In the spiritual world?
In the spiritual, or in spiritual circles, like even in this universe, the separation is enjoyment. Like again and again, this point also came in the talk, that after separation there is union.
Right.
So ultimately, if union is not there, the separation is perpetual suffering.
Right. So, in the material world, we don't want to get separated. But separation is forced upon us. Even if it is forced upon us, but when that separation ends, it gives a great amount of pleasure. Spiritual pastimes, whether they are in this world or in Goloka Vrindavan, they are under the jurisdiction of Yogamaya. And Yoga Maya has the nature that she does not produce any material effects. The material effects, which are 6, Jayate, Asti, Vardhate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Nashyati. Something takes birth, exists for some time, increases, transforms, dwindles, and gets destroyed. These effects are not present in Yoga Maya. The love of Bhagavan and the gopis never took birth. The love of Bhagavan and the gopis it's not that it increases and decreases. It is eternal, and it becomes newer and newer. And it does not undergo material diminution, and it does not get destroyed. So, under the domain of Yoga Maya, whosoever is experiencing suffering, Yoga Maya already ensures that the suffering is as if an actor in a stage play is experiencing suffering. I hope you are able to understand. She does not make it like material suffering. An actor in a stage play, as they experience suffering, if you are an actor in a stage play and you are separated from your beloved, then the suffering that you experience there is not actually suffering. The gopis, they are experiencing suffering from Krishna here. But these gopis here are merely a Prakash Vigraha, a replica of the gopis in spiritual world who are constantly in union. I hope you are able to understand. So actually the gopis are belonging to which world? Spiritual world. So let's say you and your father are both playing a role in a drama. At home, both of you are constantly together. But in a drama, you act out separation. I hope you are able to understand. Then you are eager to go and act out that role. And then you are eager to cry because you know at home I am. So those gopis who are experiencing separation here are simultaneously experiencing union there. For that reason, this suffering is not actually suffering. Because it is just a role played out by a particular gopi in order to relish bhakti ras. And that same gopi is also experiencing constant union of Bhagavan. In which world? Spiritual world. Now it can become slightly easier to digest. The same Pandavas who are constantly united with Bhagavan in the spiritual world are experiencing separation from Bhagavan in the material world. The same two people who are related as father and son at home may be playing out a role in a drama on a stage. So that's all right. Now are you okay? So that is the answer to you. Okay, chalo. Thank you.
A short follow-up maybe.
All right. Hemagiri Prabhu, short follow-up.
Just
Okay. We'll take it privately. Okay, chalo. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.